Shh. It's that time, y'all. Time for Big Boys Boxing.
If you think I'm a pussy, I'm a punk, you tell me right now. Because listen, I am the baddest nigga you ever fucking meet.
So that'll give a bit of energy.
What up, team, and welcome back to Big Boys Boxing. I'm Jono, your host. So it's fight week. We got a couple of really good heavyweight fights on this weekend in Saudi Arabia. This one is a prediction video for Filip Al Animal Hrgovic and Daniel Dynamite Dubois. So Filip Hrgovic is currently the IBF mandatory, and Daniel Dubois is coming off a good win over Jarrell Big Baby Miller, where he managed to stop him in the 10th and final round. It was very competitive. He does have a couple of losses on his record to Alexander Usyk and Joe Joyce, whereas Filip Hrgovic is undefeated. Some say controversially that he may have lost to the Big Bang Zhili Zhang. I thought he won that fight. It was close, but I thought he won it. Anyways, into the fight. Filip Hrgovic has a slight height and reach advantage. Daniel Dubois is only an inch shorter. I'm not exactly sure on the reach, but it's pretty close. Basically the same size. However, Filip Hrgovic has a deep amateur pedigree, and Daniel Dubois does not. I would say Daniel Dubois has faced the better opposition, just because of the Usyk and Joyce fights combined. Filip Hrgovic has got that win over Zhili Zhang, which was his best win by far. The next one down probably isn't really even worth mentioning. Now, this is going to be interesting. Many are high on Daniel Dubois because of how he handled himself against the big baby Jarrell Miller, or the big pharmacy. He kind of broke through some barriers where he'd shown a lack of heart in the past, where he actually got stopped by Alexander Usyk with a jab. And same for Joe Joyce. However, he'd been getting pummeled with that jab from Joe Joyce all night, and it fractured his orbital bone. That's why he took a knee and took the knockout loss, even though he was ahead on the cards. But this fight, I think it's a bit different kettle of fish. It's a guy who's the same size as Joe Joyce, probably weighs slightly less, but is a lot quicker. Filip Hrgovic has good boxing pedigree. He's got a pretty decent jab. He can box very well, as we saw after he got dropped by Zhili Zhang. He can box. He's not just come forward monster as he has done to most of his opponents in the past, but you have to take into account that most of those opponents are much lower level than world level fighters for Filip Hrgovic. He didn't look that great at times against Zhili Zhang. Many are putting it down to the death of his father and the fight having to be postponed initially and whatnot. But there was a fair amount of time after his father died and the fight initially being postponed until the fight happened. I think some of the lack of interest at times we saw from Filip Hrgovic, almost walking away with his back half turned at times when he got hit by Zhili Zhang. It was a reaction to him being a little frustrated about not being able to get Zhili Zhang out of there. He landed some hellacious punches on Zhili Zhang and it didn't move him. He's not used to that. So he reverted back to boxing and he still got the job done. I think there is a very large amount of heart there for Filip Vic, if he does get in trouble, I'm not so sure about Daniel Dubois. We have seen the lack of heart at times in the past. Yes, he did have his resurgence against Jarrell Miller, where through the middle of the fight he looked like he was starting to cave, but he managed to get a second wind. Some words from his father in the corner, and also being under the new coach, what's his name? Derek Chisora's old coach. Oh, it's gone from my head off the top. Don Charles. His new coach, Don Charles, he is really gelling well with. So maybe he can push through any adversity he experiences in this fight. But I think it's a different kind of adversity than what he's experienced so far. It's not going to be a power pole jab like Joe Joyce. It's not going to be a buzzsaw coming at him like Alexander Usyk from all sorts of angles. It's going to be straight, heavy punches, and they're not going to stop. So you can pretty much guess what my prediction is for this fight. I think Filip Hrgovic is actually a couple of levels above Daniel Dubois. Filip Hrgovic, with that amateur pedigree, has been a bit of a boogeyman. Nobody wanted to fight him. He went through the whole top 15 of the IBF trying to look for an opponent who would take him on in a final eliminator. Finally, Zhili Zhang did take the fight after everybody else turned it down. Why do you think everybody keeps turning it down? It can't just be because of the lack of money involved in the fight, because it was for a IBF mandatory position. Those are the kind of fights where the money doesn't really matter, because it gets you in a position for a world title where the money will come anyway. I think Daniel Dubois is going to get knocked out within 8 rounds. Possibly within 4. But I wouldn't be putting the house on it. If the fight goes the distance, I think Filip Hrgovic still wins. Yes, Daniel Dubois does have some decent volume at times, but I think when he puts out volume like he did against Jarrell Miller, there's a lot less on his punches. Same goes for most boxers, of course, but I think Filip Hrgovic will hold his power longer. If it does go the distance, yeah, I'm still picking Hrgovic on points. If I was betting on this, which I am, I will be putting money on Hrgovic just for the win. I'm not going to go for a method of victory, as I'm not 100% confident that it will happen. But one thing to consider is this will be the hardest single punching heavyweight that Daniel Dubois has faced. And after seeing him dropped 3 times by Kevin Lerena, granted 2 of them were because he injured his Achilles or something, but the first one, he got dropped by Kevin Lerena heavy, and that was because of the punch. If Filip Hrgovic lands something like that on Daniel Dubois, I think it's a lights out. Yes, Daniel Dubois got a pretty decent right hand and a pretty decent left hook as well, but I think Filip Hrgovic has a rock solid chin, kind of like Zhili Zhang, right? So those are my thoughts for the fight. Let me know yours in the comments below and we get some conversation going. I'm Jono from Big Boys Boxing. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for future notifications. You won't miss anything that way. That's it from me today, and I'm out of here. See you!